Well, we need Greenland for national security purpose.
Greenland, the world's largest island, mostly covered in ice, with a population smaller than a small American town, a place so remote and uninhabited that most people never think about it. What if I told you that Trump's idea is not that crazy and Greenland could actually become part of the United States? The truth is, this is something that has already been attempted multiple times throughout history. And given today's geopolitical landscape, it might be closer than ever to happening. When you look at the history, the strategy, and the benefits, it suddenly doesn't seem so far-fetched. And if it did happen, it would be one of the biggest geopolitical moves of the 21st century. But why does the US want Greenland anyway? To understand this, we need to go back in time. The first serious attempt to acquire Greenland happened in 1867, when U.S. Secretary of State William Seward, the same guy who bought Alaska from Russia, suggested purchasing both Greenland and Iceland. It didn't work out back then, but the idea didn't die. Fast forward to 1946, and President Harry Truman went even further, offering $100 million, which would be worth over $1 billion today, to buy Greenland from the Kingdom of Denmark. The Kingdom of Denmark refused, but the fact that the US was willing to write a check for an entire island tells you how valuable Greenland is. And then in 2019, Donald Trump revived the idea, saying the US should buy Greenland. The media laughed at it. The thing is, Greenland isn't just a giant frozen island. It's one of the most strategically important pieces of land on Earth. First, it's in the Arctic, which is quickly becoming the new frontier of global power. The Arctic is melting, and that's opening up entirely new trade routes that could reshape global commerce. Right now, shipping from China to Europe takes weeks, passing through the Indian Ocean, the Suez Canal, and the Mediterranean. But with the Arctic routes opening, that time could be cut in half. And guess who has access to the entrance to these new trade routes? Yep, Greenland. Greenland has the geographical position to control this entrance with the right infrastructure. If the US owned Greenland, it would dominate the most important future trade lanes in the world, while also putting serious pressure on Russia and China. Second, military dominance. The US already has a major military base in Greenland, the Thule Air Base, which is a key early warning station for nuclear missile detection. Controlling Greenland outright would fortify the US military position in the Arctic, securing one of the most important defensive locations in the world. Third, natural resources. Greenland is sitting on huge reserves of oil, gas, and rare earth minerals, the kind that power everything from smartphones to electric cars. And right now, China dominates the global supply of these materials. If the US controlled Greenland, it would own one of the richest untapped sources of rare earths on the planet. The other important thing is that subscribing to the channel will help you stay ahead and informed with valuable insights on topics like this. So, trade routes, military positioning, and natural resources. But there's another reason this could actually happen. Greenland's unique political status. A lot of people assume Greenland is just a part of Denmark, but that's not entirely true. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, which means that it's not fully integrated like a regular Danish region. Think of it this way: Denmark, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands form what's called the Kingdom of Denmark, but Greenland has its own government, own laws, and its own political autonomy. It's not completely independent yet, but it's moving in that direction. In 2009, Greenland achieved self-rule, allowing it to govern most of its internal affairs. Then, in 2023, a commission presented a draft constitution for an independent Greenland, and by February 2024, Greenland's government officially declared independence as its goal. The Prime Minister, Mutburup Egede, even stated that a referendum on independence could be held as soon as April 2025. Right now, Greenland is heavily dependent on Denmark for funding, receiving about $500 million per year to sustain its economy. However, Greenland has vast natural resources that remain largely untapped due to a lack of infrastructure and investment. While Greenland seeks independence, it still relies on Denmark for financial stability. This doesn't mean Greenland cannot survive alone, but it could mean that it wouldn't be able to defend itself. If it becomes independent, it will need to develop alternative sources of income, such as attracting greater foreign investment or forming strategic economic partnerships. Greenland would also need to establish a self-sustaining government, maintain infrastructure, and develop industries that can support its economy in the long term. Another critical factor is Greenland's NATO membership. As part of the Kingdom of Denmark, Greenland benefits from NATO protection. However, after gaining independence, it would have to rely on its own resources for security. This raises a significant security question. Would an independent Greenland be able to protect itself from geopolitical threats, or would it need to align with a powerful military ally? This is where the US could step in. If Greenland chose to join the US, it would immediately gain access to American investment, technology, and military protection, unlocking Greenland's full potential, something Denmark cannot offer on the same scale. Alternatively, Greenland could seek a military alliance with NATO after independence. At that moment, the US would have significant leverage in negotiations, potentially making Greenland more open to American influence. The process of buying Greenland wouldn't even be unprecedented. The US has purchased territories before. Louisiana, Alaska, and the US Virgin Islands were all bought from other countries. If Greenland were to hold a referendum and vote to join the US, it could easily happen. Of course, not everyone would support this move. Denmark would likely oppose it, since Greenland is still technically part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Denmark sees Greenland as an important geopolitical asset, and losing it would weaken Denmark's presence in the Arctic. The European Union might try to intervene to keep Greenland out of US hands. While Greenland left the EU in 1985, Denmark is still a member, and the EU has a vested interest in maintaining stability in the Arctic. The EU also wants to secure access to Greenland's natural resources, especially rare earth minerals, to reduce dependence on China. If the US took control, the EU could lose direct influence over these vital resources. The cost would be massive, not just in the purchase price, which could be upwards of $50 billion, but in the infrastructure investments needed to fully integrate Greenland into the US. Roads, hospitals, and airports would need to be developed in this freezing country. Greenlanders themselves would have to agree, a referendum would need to happen, and not everyone in Greenland wants to be part of another country. While some might see benefits in American investment, others might prefer full independence over becoming a US territory. Could the US just take it? Trump has hinted that he wouldn't rule out force, but let's be honest, that's not going to happen. Denmark is a NATO ally, meaning an invasion of Greenland would be an act of war against a fellow NATO member. The world would condemn it, just like they did with Russia invading Ukraine. The US is a democracy. It doesn't need to invade, it can negotiate a deal. So, yes, we could see Greenland be part of the US in the future. Not easily and not immediately, but the pieces are there. The US wouldn't just gain another state. It would cement its dominance over the Arctic, trade routes, global resources, and geopolitics for the next century. Trump's idea wasn't so crazy after all. That's it for today, guys. Always remember to stay curious and stay hodling.